Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Punaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmad Acharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. सरस्वती समस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणी विद्यारंभं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा कार्पण्यदोषोपहतः स्वभावः पृच्छामि त्वां धर्मसम्मूढचेताः यश्रेयस्यानिश्चितं ब्रूहि तन्मे शिष्यस्तेऽहं शाधिमां त्वां प्रपन्नम् Om Vame Manasi Pratishtita Mano Me Vachi Pratishthitam Avir Avir Maedhi Vedasya Ma'anisthaha Shrutam Me Ma Prahasihi Anena Adhitena Ahoratran Sandadhami Ritam Vadishyami Satyam Vadishyami Tanmavavatu Tadvaktaram avatu avatu mam avatu vaktaram avatu vaktaram. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Bhadram Karnebhi Shrunayama Devaha Bhadram Pashyema Akshapirachatraha Sthirairange Stushtvagvam Swastanubhihi Vyashema Devahitam Yadayuhu Swastina Indro Vridhashavaha Swastina Pusha Vishwavedaha Swastina Sakshyo Arishtanemi Swastina Brahaspatir Dadhatu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Aham Vrikshasya Reriva Kirti Prishtam Gireriva Urdhva Pavitro Vajaniva Swamritam Asmi Dravinagvam Savarchasam Sumedha Amritokshitaha Iti Trishankor Vedanuvachanam. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Narayan Narayan everyone. Thank you, Vedanta. So first of all, thank you so much for your patience, and we are sorry. Last 3 weeks, our house has been ravished by sickness, and we were not able to conduct classes last 2 weeks. Both me and Vedant were very, very unwell. But you're back, and everything's good again. So let's get started. So we were supposed to do class 10, sorry, not class 10, chapter 10. So I think for some reason, Bhagwanji is pushing the entire quiz out. It means that he thinks that everyone needs some time to prepare. So hopefully we do it next weekend. So for today, for this class, we will continue on a normal basis with chapter 11. Okay. In the last class, we had started chapter 11 and we had covered first 3 shlokas. So just to, I think, recap is important. It's been like forever. It feels like forever since we did our class. Okay. I think the first important thing is that now in in chapter 10, essentially Bhagwanji has given an exposition of his subtleties. And in that, he also told Arjun that it is impossible for him to give an entire exposition of all his subtleties or of all his sublimities, because it is not possible. They are anant, right? They are indescribable in completeness. So after that, now Arjun at this stage realizes, when Bhagwanji says towards the end that what is the point of even trying to understand all the sublimities? Understand this, that I am sitting in your rath. I am your sathi. I have control of your horses, and the lagam is in my hand, right? And with that, I am directing your life. So why there is no point in trying to even understand all the sublimities, right? When Bhagwanji says that, that's when Arjun realizes, and it dawns on him, that Bhagwanji has been saying all of this not to show off or anything, right? The only reason Bhagwanji has gone into this exposition is for his benefit, okay, for grace on him. So that's what he says, Madanugrahaya, that you have done this for bestowing your grace on me. Okay, and he says that because Bhagwanji had said, right, now who Arjun was, or what his understanding of Bhagwanji was at the start of chapter 10 has gone through more changes. He has now had better understanding of who Bhagwanji really is. So at the beginning of chapter 11, he says that now I really, really understand that this diversity I see around me is a part of you. It is you everywhere, in everything that I see around me. This entire sansar, Bhagwanji says, all the sansar that you see around you is present in a small ansh of me, in a small part of me. This entire thing is present, right? Now, at this stage, now Arjun has developed faith, right? A complete, like unshakable faith in the truth of this matter. Okay. And he says that because you have also said that anyone who understands Bhagwanji in his essence, understands Bhagwanji's sublimities in essence, understands the universe, unity in diversity, right? That's the meaning of understanding him in essence, is to understand that there is unity in diversity. Everything, everywhere, kahin bhi hamari nazar jaye is dunya mein, we will see only him. When you really understand that, then your bhakti in me will naturally arise. This was at the beginning of chapter 10. He had already said this, right? So he said, now your bhakti in me will come. And Arjun says, that has actually come. I have now complete faith in you. I fully understand, I fully believe, and I fully accept what you have told me about yourself as being true. And because of this, the delusion in me has ended, right? So he says, Mohoyam vigato mama. The delusion is completely destroyed. There is no more delusion in me, right? The fun part is that Bhagwanji knows us better than we know ourselves, right? So while Arjun thinks that his delusion is completely gone, Bhagwanji knows that is not true. Arjun thinks his delusion is gone. It has gone only in part, not completely. If his delusion was gone completely, Gita would have stopped on chapter 10, right? But Bhagwanji knows that is not the case. Okay, this is very important for us to know that he knows us better than we even know ourselves. And that is why even though, is everything all right? Okay. So even though we think that, we know what is for our best interest, we actually don't. He knows what is in our best interest. And that is why at the beginning of every class, we start with the invocation shloka, which says Karpanya dosh. Okay, we have the dosh of Karpanya, miserliness. Miserliness of what? Not being able to use the intellect that has been given to us in its entirety. That is the Karpanya dosh we have. And we do not know what is in our best interest. That's why, Bhagwanji, you tell me what is for sure in my best interest and help me through it. Right? So, so he says now, Bhagwan. So Arjun basically says now. This is very interesting, right? He says that now, if you think this is in Shlok 4, right? Yeah, Shlok 4. So we haven't come to Shlok 4. Okay. So now he says that now I have heard all your unbounded glories, right? And he calls him Kamala Patraksh. That you are, what is the importance of Kamala Patraksh? That Kamal grows in dirty water and yet is completely unsullied by its environment and grows in complete splendor and beauty. So it goes on to show that irrespective of our circumstances, all of us have equal opportunity to bring forth our divinity. We all have equal opportunity, and the best circumstances have been created for us to be able to reach back and understand who we really are, to find our way back to Bhagwanji, to find the truth, right? And all of this can only happen through our own action, effort हमें डालना ही पड़ेगा, right? We can't like shy away by saying अच्छा भगवान जी की grace है ना तो भगवान जी will do, then it is his job, it's not my job. That's not the case, right? We have to do our effort to make ourselves adhikari, to make ourselves to get to be eligible for his grace. Okay. And why is it important for us to be eligible for his grace? What does that mean? It's like this, right? We have a if your wardrobe is full of clothes, you can't put new clothes in it. You have to take the old clothes out, right? That is very important, and that is our effort. Our effort is not to learn new things. Our effort is to empty ourselves of who we think we are, empty ourselves of our of the understanding we have of this world that we have lived with for thus long. Under our understanding of how this must be done or that must not be done, this is right, that is wrong, these are all dualities. We have to do our effort to move past. We have to empty ourselves of the roles we have ascribed to ourselves. We have to empty ourselves of the identities we give to ourselves and we live with. So our job here, why do we say Swadhyay? Why is Swadhyay so important? That is the part of the effort. Swadhyay is not reading two shlokas. Swadhyay is not about, opening your book and just reading it. Swadhyay is Swa ka adhyay, book ka adhyay nahi. It is not reading the book. It is reading yourself, understanding yourself. The two shlokas you're supposed to read, you're supposed to go back to yourself and see how does it apply to me. Swadhyay means that at the beginning of chapter 11, today as Arjuna, I understand that he is everywhere, that my Jivatma, I am not this body, mind, intellect complex. Right? I understand that intellectually. I understand that. I accept it. I accept it also, fully accept it. But is my everyday experience that? Is my everyday experience that of Jivatma who is Paramatma's Ansh? Because if that were the case, there would be no abhav left in us, right? When I look at others around me, is there still a I, me, mine, and you and yours? Then the Swadhyay is, why is there this gap between my intellectual understanding and my experiential life? That is Swadhyay. Swadhyay, that is the effort we have to make. And when we make that effort consistently, constantly, at some stage, with enough effort put in, we become eligible for His grace. And when we become eligible for His grace is when the Gyan actually dawns on us. That is why Swadhyay is so important. That is why our effort is so important. Make no mistake, we will never get there. We'll never get Gyan without Him. And we'll see how, right? But it does not absolve us of our responsibility, of the effort we have to put in and the intent with which we have to approach this. Okay. So, so in Shlok 3, he calls Bhagwanji Parmeshwar and Purushottam, right? So Parmeshwar means one who has, or who is the head of all Aishwarya in this world. And there are, and he says that there are 6 major sublimities of Bhagwanji, right? Aishwarya, Gyan, Shakti, Bal, Virya, and Tej. These are the attributes of Param Ishwar. Okay. So he says that.
Which is translated in English. Glory, cognition, potential.
Okay. Glory. Gyan is cognition. Shakti is potentiality is Virya. Shakti is the strength. Bal is the physical strength. Shakti is the mental strength. And Bal is physical strength. Virya is potentiality. And Tej is the effulgence.
Magnificence.
Okay, magnificence or effulgence. Now comes Shlok 4. Okay. Shlok 4 is when
So these 6 sublimities, right? From practical perspective, always visualize a seed. Physically, we understand what a seed is. From our education, we understand what a seed grows into. But all these 6 sublimities highlighted here, right? Glory, cognition, everything exists within that seed. And that is what Bhagwanji is saying, that I am that subtlety which is at the beginning of every creation.
Yeah.
And everything happens beyond that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Right. And then he says that you are also the Purushottam. Purushottam is the Param Uttam, the best amongst all creatures, right? Beyond the perishable and the imperishable natures. And now he wants to see how does this happen, right? Like the fact that this entire world is contained in a small part of him. Now there is curiosity that has come up. Now you have to understand this curiosity also did not come by itself. The curiosity came because Bhagwanji said this. At the end of chapter 10, Bhagwanji told him that all of this world that you see is a small part of me. That created the curiosity in Arjun to ask. That means Bhagwanji created the curiosity in the first place. Okay? Everything that happens in this world is because he wants it to happen. He created that curiosity in Arjun, which he will now express. Even Gita, when it started, how did it start? Started with his melancholy. And he told Bhagwanji, ki, show me who I have come here to fight me, right? Now, Bhagwanji could have taken that Rath anywhere and made it stand there. He took it and made him stand and see who? His favorites, Pitama, Bhishma Pitama, and Guru Dronacharya. Bhagwanji took the Rath and made it stand in front of those two and said, now perceive these Kurus who have come to fight you. Because he knew what effect it's going to have on Arjun, because he knew what are the weaknesses of Arjun. And he knew this is going to create, this situation will create that melancholy to come up. This situation will create a situation for Arjun to now get to a situation where he says, I don't know what's happening anymore. I don't know what is good for me anymore. And he starts the process of his learning. So he created the situation for Gita to be spoken in the first place. So Bhagwanji wanted to give Gita ka gyan to all of us. It is his grace. That's why he wanted to do it, and hence with his whole grace has come on us.
And the way to perceive this in our lives is every time we go through a tough time, that is basically us naturally going to God asking for help. Every time, like I think it's a gross visualization, but the easiest visualization is when we're about to lose a family member. Few days before, they're very sick, whatever else, what are we going to do? Go straight to a temple in our house and start asking Bhagwanji, please do whatever. Right? So whenever we reach that stage in our life where we are helpless, we naturally turn to God. And we feel as if, why is it happening to us? We become the victim, we become attached. But Arjun's journey is our journey. Every time that happens, it's because God wants us to now pay attention to him and the real purpose of why we are born. And that's how he talks to us. Sorry.
That is true. But what is also important before we get on to Shloka, just to comment on what Abhinav said. It is true that most of us would turn to Bhagwanji in the most difficult times, right? However, we, like Kabir ji says, right, कि दुख में सुमिरन सब करे, सुख में करे न कोई, जो सुख में सुमिरन करे तो दुख का हे को होए. This is very important for us to remember. When life is comparatively easier on us and has lesser demands on us, on our time, on our energy from an external point of view, is the time to devote yourself as much as is possible to upasana, to swadhyay, to reading of scriptures. That's the time to do effort. Because when things really get difficult, when you are in the midst of a war, when you're fighting a battle, you will not have time to stand and think. That is the time to act, and you will act based on your instincts that have been crafted over a period of time. So we need to use the peace time to develop and improve our instincts, to learn, so that we can visualize and then we can actually act out when things get really tough. And the tough times will then show us how much further have we reached. And if we are really, really sincere in our learning, each time we go through a tough time, you will look back and say, you know what, if I was going through it a year earlier, I would have been a different person. My reactions, my behavior, the way I would have dealt with things would have been different. And today I'm dealing with it in a much stronger manner. In some capacity, you will see, you'll find yourself calmer, or you will find yourself stronger. You will find that maybe you are no longer getting into victimhood anymore. You will find that your faith is much stronger. In some capacity, depending on the strength of our sadhana, which will determine the velocity of our change, the velocity of our improvement. Okay. And as they say, when you squeeze an orange, only orange juice comes out. Apple juice will not come out of an orange. And so how you behave in stressful situations, and these could be extended stressful situations, could be something small, like somebody shouting at you. Somebody walked in and just randomly shouted at you. How do you behave in that moment? You just suddenly came under stress. Did you shout back? Did you behave? How has your behavior changed? Right? All of these things will show us they are markers of our improvement, and take them seriously. Right? But remember, we have to prepare in peacetime so that we can act well in the wartime. Wartime is not the time to do. If you read any exposition on meditation, you cannot do meditation when you're stressed. If you think, oh, I'm not like all stressed, now I sit down and do meditation. Nope, you won't be able to meditate. Meditation actually happens only when you're completely calm and you're in a stable state of mind. That's when you do meditation. The more you do meditation in your stable state of mind, the higher the chances that when things get really difficult, you have developed an ability to stay calm and the ability to have much more direction towards your brain. You can direct your mind towards thinking what you wanted to think rather than it going willy-nilly randomly in whatever direction, and taking control of your body, your senses, right? Similarly, same thing. So swadhyaya and all should be done when there is relative calmness in your life to prepare for the battles of life, which will always come for all of us. So with that really long background, let's start Shlok 4. Okay. So Kavita, would you like to read with us Shlok 4? Start with connection.
Thus expressed a desire to behold the Lord as one totality, Arjuna says.
Manyase yadi tachhakyam
Manyase yadi tachakyam
maya drashtumiti prabho
maya drashtumiti prabho
yogeshwar tato me tvam
yogeshwar tato me tvam
darshayatmanavyayam.
darshayatmanamavyayam.
So manyase is mante hain. Mante hain as in if you think. Okay, yadi is if. Tat chakyam, tat that, chakyam, ichakyam, if it is possible, maya, by me, drashtrumiti, if I can see it, prabho. Okay, prabhu, yogeshwar, it's again a reference to Bhagwan ji, tato, aap, darshayatman, darshan karaiye, make me see, make me visualize, avyayam, atman avyayam, Atman is your own. Avyayam is imperishable self.
O Lord, if you think it is possible for me to behold it, then, O Yogeshwara, do show me your imperishable self. The identity of the Lord's self and creation. In chapter 10, the Lord has explained that the diversities of creation are only manifestation of his sublimities. This is how he has already established that the two are indeed one identity. In this shloka, Arjuna has addressed the Lord as Yogeshwara. It indicates that though the Lord views the unity of the self and the diversity of the creation as one totality, it is not possible for the Jivatma, the individualized self, to have that view. In fact, yoga is the science which with the help of which the Jivatma can rise above individuality and achieve universality. By addressing the Lord as Yogeshwara, Arjuna implies that as the master of yoga, it is indeed easy for him to enable him to have a unified perception.
Yeah, so first thing is the first line, right? If you think it is possible for me to behold it. Now, this statement itself deeply reflects his surrendership to Bhagwan Ji. He's not requesting, he's not asking, he doesn't even know his potential. He's saying, if you think it is possible for me to behold it, then I would like to do this.
Correct. And this is such a big difference from chapter 1 Arjun. Chapter 1 Arjun was treating Bhagwan Ji as a sathi. Right? You do what I tell you to do. Show me who has come here to fight me. Take me there. Right? He was ordering him. From that point, now he comes to chapter 10. Now he's understood what is Bhagwan Ji, and he's still now in chapter 10. What does he say? Tell me all your subtleties. Tell me about all your sublimities. Right? Again, there is that bit there, right? Where he says, now you show me everything, you tell me everything, right? And Bhagwan Ji says what? Nope, I can't tell you everything because it's not possible for me to tell you everything. So I will tell you a small portion of my sublimities. From there to chapter 11, now he's heard what Bhagwanji is saying, right? Now at this stage, he's like, oh, he's more careful this time of how he presents his request to Bhagwanji, right? He now no longer believes that he knows what is the right thing. He doesn't believe that he has the right anymore to anything and everything that he's been asking Bhagwanji thus far, right? So his understanding has evolved considerably. Pehle kya tha? I'm going to order you and you got to do my bidding. And now he's reached a point where he's like, I don't know if I'm requesting you, but it is up to you to determine whether I am ready for this request or not. It is up to you to determine whether I have become what is the word, adhikari? I have the right or the ability to even handle what I have asked for.
Because I don't know what
Because
is so
I
good
don't
anymore.
know. Yeah. I don't know. He has completely reached a point of I don't know. I would like this, but ultimately, whether you fulfill this request or not is up to you. Okay. If you think I am capable, then please show me. See the transformation in his mindset, the transformation with the way he's approaching with his request. Right? So as a small example, very gross example, when you go through your, in your office, when you go through your performance appraisal, right? One way is to say, I think I deserve a promotion now. I think I deserve this. And so you should be giving this to me. That's how you talk to your boss. In the other way, you are doing whatever you can. And then you say that I have done da 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 da. And if you think I am ready, this is the new level of responsibilities I feel like maybe I can handle. If you think I'm ready to handle that, I would like you to consider it. Very different ways of creating a request. And when you create requests that way, your mindset is also very different, right? You're not going to be disappointed if something doesn't come through, because there's no sense of I have a right to it. There's no sense of entitlement here any longer. He's completely left his sense of entitlement. That's very important change in Arjuna's consciousness. That sense of entitlement is gone completely. There's only a sense of real work. I need to put in my effort, but there's no sense of entitlement because of the effort I'm going to put in. Okay?
The second part of this statement, then O Yogeshwara, he's now giving Bhagwanji a compliment, where we all know what yoga means. Yoga means union. So when we do yoga, we are trying to be a union with the higher, from the Jivatma to the Paramatma. We are trying to do yoga. So all in Bhagavad Gita, we talk about yoga, Gyan Yoga. All of this is the way to connect back to Bhagwanji, yoga.
Yeah.
He's calling Bhagwanji the master of yoga, or in other words, Yogeshwara, matlab the Lord of yoga. If he is the Lord of yoga, the Lord of making connection, he says, for you, this should be possible. He's trying to entice him also, saying, you are the master of yoga, only you can make it possible for me to get a glimpse of our unification. And this is comes from the previous chapter where Bhagwanji says in 10.07, he actually says that if a person asks, I will show them that unification. It is his grace. Without his grace, we will never be able to see it. And that's what he is invoking as that request.
Correct. Absolutely. So these 2-3 things, right? One is to understand that I don't have the samarthya, I don't have the ability. If you think I am deserving, then I request you to show me your Virat Roop. Okay? And even if you don't show it to me, that's the underlying message. Even if you don't show it to me, that does not mean that I'm going to doubt your words. right? I would only understand that I am not ready right now. I don't have the ability right now, or I am not deserving of it right now. Okay, that's the whole point. It's like, for example, I mean, the reason there are so many niyams and things to do, things not to do, is because our bodies are all different bodies, not just physical body, but mental, emotional body, spiritual body. Our bodies are not ready to deal with the the reality that will come and hit us. It's like physically on day one, my body is not ready to do a full marathon. I have to prepare for it. If I do go ahead and do out of stubbornness, I don't care, I'm going to go and run my Standard Chartered marathon today, right? You go do it. What will happen? Your body will break. 100% it will break if you've done it without practice, without preparing your body for it. You will have problem in your joints, your knees are going to collapse, you're going to fall sick, you're going to break something, you will go through punishment. That is why Bhagwanji has to prepare us, and that's why we have to make an effort to get us ready to be able to receive from Bhagwanji. Right? So he says, if you don't give it to me, I will not say that, oh, that means that, oh, you did not show me your Virat Roop. That means it's not even possible. He's not there anymore. Huh? That's not the space he's in. It's like, I will believe then, and I will still believe exactly what you told me about yourself, but I will know that I am not ready yet. That means I have further to go. I have more effort to put in, and I will continue to put that effort until the time you feel I'm ready for you to grant me this request. Okay, that level of consciousness is very important. You can see the elevation in his consciousness level. Okay. And like Abhinav said, yeah, Yogeshwar, right? Another thing is that, it is how we have asked, right? Like Bhagwanji, he has asked with a lot of sankoch, with a lot of, request. Ki, you show me that one roop of yours. Now, when Arjun had asked, show me everything, Bhagwanji said, what? No, I will show you only a little bit. Now he's asking in a very Adarpurvak manner, show me one Virat roop form of yours. Now Bhagwanji will show him everything. Okay. Let's go to the next one. Nena, will you read this?
Yeah, sure. The point raised by Arjuna in these 4 shlokas are now dealt with by the Lord.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Pashya me Partha Rupani.
Pashya me Partha Rupani.
Shatasho Sahasrashaha.
Shatasho Sahasrashaha.
Nana Vidhani Divyani.
Nana Vidhani Divyani.
Nana Varna Kratini Cha.
Nana Varna Kritini Cha.
So he's now starting to show Pashya. Pashya is going to come 4 times over next few shlokas. So watch them, right? Pashya, see. Me Parth Rupani, my different roops. Shato Shatan Sahasra, hundreds and thousands. Nana Vidhani, of different types. But what kind? Divyani, divine. Nana Varna Kratini, of different shapes and colors.
The Lord says, O Partha, behold my forms, having various colors and shapes and of different kinds in hundreds and in thousands.
So here, in the next 3 shlokas, right, 5 to 8, Bhagwanji will refer to Arjun with different names, right? So in this shloka, he's called him Partha, which is in the gross meaning, son of Kunti.
Son of Prithvi.
Son of Prithvi, which is earth. He's calling him Partha because in this shloka he's saying, Pashya here is use the eyes. And through your eyes, see me in the hundreds of different shapes, sizes, and colors that are there around you already. So he's invoking the gross form of Arjun and us, saying we've just studied chapter 10, Vibhuti Yoga. Use your eyes to see anything which is splendor or magnificent. And that attraction itself is me attracting you to myself. Right? So this is the first way he calls Arjun. The second term that he uses is Bharat, O Bharata. And the third is Gudakesh. So when we go to those shlokas, we'll give you the meanings of each and why it's relevant for that particular shloka.
So like Abhinav said,
by the way, this is definitely a question in the quiz. So you can take note and pay attention in the next chapter quiz.
Abhinav is getting his quiz master hat on and
Now-
giving away questions and giving away questions.
Now that I've done the chapter 10 quiz now, like I'm reading this and I'm like, oh, this is a good quiz question. I just like making notes here.
So Parth, like Abhinav said, son of Prithvi, shows gross consciousness. But gross consciousness of who? Gross consciousness of someone who's willing to elevate his consciousness, who's willing to put in that effort. Not everybody is a Parth, right? Not everybody is a Parth. There has to be that willingness to put in the effort to raise your level of consciousness. That person, even though he's at a gross consciousness level at this stage, is a Parth. Okay? It's written.
One Lord in many aspects. In this shloka, the Lord addresses Arjuna as Partha, which denotes a person having a gross outlook, symbolizing the individualized self. Arjuna cannot remain established in a state of realization of the self fixedly. Hence the epithet Partha.
So
The Lord,
this line is really important because it actually signifies us. You know, the reason why we all are reading the Gita and we make this effort of coming every Sunday, because we all have glimpses of experience which are beyond us. We all have had glimpses of experience of his miracles and his blessings, even before the Gita journey started. And somewhere we feel, yes, there is a higher power that has been really kind to me. And sometimes I feel I'm undeserving of it. And that's what has brought us to this journey. These glimpses of experiences is our experience of Bhagwanji. But it's very hard for us to retain it. Because
Actually, we cannot retain it. Okay?
Right
given
after
the space that we are in, given the consciousness level that we all have, it is impossible to constantly see university in diversity at all times. But the whole journey is to continue. So a very good example that was given by Shalini Didi in one of the classes which I want to bring out here was how does this yoga look like, right, for us? It feels like you're standing on your tiptoes. Okay, you stand on your tiptoes and you try and balance yourself. Okay, you don't get to balance yourself beyond a few seconds. After that, you will go a little bit here and there. That is our journey right now. You will constantly lose that visualization, but then you keep coming back. You keep coming back. You have a certain discipline that you will put in place for yourself, for your upasana, for your swadhyay. And at some point of time, something will come along that will take that thing out. But that shouldn't upset us. That shouldn't anger us. You have a certain time for your puja every day. And then one day your child is there, he's sick, or something's happened in your office, something's going on in your life externally that will take you away from that discipline for a day or two. It's okay. It is part of life. It will happen. Don't hold a grudge against yourself. Don't hold a grudge against that external circumstance or a person because of which you couldn't do your puja. Because that itself is showing you that you are now attached to that discipline. See how quickly we get attached to things, right? Know that and remove yourself from that attachment as well, right? And do what is required of you in that moment of duty, right? So life is going to be that balance, trying to keep that balance on while you're standing on your tiptoes. That is what this yoga is going to look like. So a path with that gross consciousness level will never be able to behold Bhagwanji, behold the truth, behold the Gyan, behold the unity constantly. You would always go away from the center, and then the story is to get yourself back again. That is why this is so important to do swadhyay, to do your upasana, to do what to come for satsang. That is why it is important, because without these crutches we will go very far from the center. The more crutches we have around us, the more quickly we come back. You will go out of the center constantly, but the more help you have in your environment around you, the more effort you put in, the quicker you will come back to the center. Go out and quickly come back to the center again.
So while we have those glimpses, the world we like the world a lot, right? So there are so many distractions in the world. So while we have those glimpses and experiences, we're immediately distracted. A few moments later, back into the world.
Yeah.
Tuina says, Abhinav, do something. My mind's gone there. I can't hold on to that glimpse. That is what is referred to as Partha. A person who is from the earth, who still likes sansar, but is now becoming aware of the glimpses of Bhagwanji.
The Lord in this shloka exhorts him to see his infinite self, also infinite self. Also, he asks him to behold how, in his unity, he manifests diversity, and how in all the diversities he is ever one. Though the diverse forms have many colors and many shapes, all of them are divine, meaning thereby that they are not the creations of physical elements. They are, in fact, manifestations of his effulgent consciousness.
So the easiest way for us to understand this is the example of gold and ornaments. Gold is one, but its creation is in innumerable shapes and sizes of earrings and necklaces and pendants and rings and bracelets and anklets and toe rings and whatever else, right? Nose rings, whatever else. There's enough number of, but it's all one. Similarly, what Bhagwanji is saying here is, while you see so many different forms of just human beings, no two human beings look exactly the same. There's so much diversity just among 8 billion human beings, right? But at the source of it all is exactly the same. Our beauty and our effulgence comes from him. The moment my soul leaves this body, there is no attraction, there's no beauty in that body. You can look at that body and you'll be like, Ye kya hai? This doesn't represent me at all. But the moment his light is in me, that is where you will see beauty, energy, love, that will attract each one of us to be with each other.
I think another thing, to take Abhinav's example of that gold and ornaments forward. There are three types of eyes that will be referred to here. Okay? Right now in this shloka, he's talking about seeing the gross things, right? Things that can be seen with our charam chakshu. Charam chakshu are the eyes, the physical eyes that we have. So with physical eyes, we see the ornaments and their shapes and sizes. The moment you see it with your eyes, your physical eyes will only go to shape and form, right? So you're only seeing the diversity. You don't see unity with your charam chakshu. You cannot. Okay? Charam chakshu will only get you entangled with shapes and forms. What sees the unity of gold behind all the ornaments? It's your intellect. It's not your eyes. It's your intellect, the wisdom that gets you to see that. So there is Gyan Chakshu that will come in. Okay. So right now here it is Charam Chakshu, physical eyes that are being exhorted to see. Another interesting thing is the word he uses is Divyani, right? Like Divyani, see the divine form. So as people, we look at the world, and when we see this world is his body. This world, the sansar, is Bhagwanji's body. Okay. But we see his Vishwaroop every day. This Vishwaroop darshan that he's showing to Bhagwanji, we see it every day in the form of the sansar around us. That's Vishwaroop darshan. The world is Vishwaroop darshan of Bhagwanji. That is what he's showing. But when our focus is on the sansar alone, all we see is plain sansar. Bhagwanji exhorts him to say in this Vishwaroop, now see the divine form of me. This is where he's saying, elevate your thought process, elevate your way of seeing, so that you don't just see the forms and names of these jewelry. See the gold behind it, the universe. So that's why he's saying, when you change your view, your outlook, then a simple sansar would start to look godly. You will start to see godliness in it. You will start to see divinity in it. And with that divinity, that bhav will change in you. And with that change in bhav, the way you deal with everything in this world will also change. Right? So when you see a flower, you don't just see a flower. You see the splendor of Bhagwanji in it. When you smell a flower, you see the splendor of Bhagwanji in it, and you are amazed at the beauty that Bhagwanji creates. When you see a sunrise, or when you see water drops fall down from the sky, you feel his divinity. It is no longer just rain. It is his grace which causes this world to go around. It is the binding force which makes 70% of our body. You start to see his splendor. Then you start to see Vishwaroop and not just Sansar Roop. Then you start to see divinity in everything. You get the difference? When we are entangled in just the Sansar, we will see the Vishwaroop and yet not see any amazingness in it. Right? You won't be amazed by how much diversity is there. You won't be amazed by the laws of nature. You won't be amazed by how all of this is actually going on, and how the cycle of life is crafted. But the moment you start to see divinity in it, then you will not cease to be amazed by the simplest of the things.
Yeah, to just give an example of a flower. I remember a few months or a year ago, Tuina and I just walked around our condo, and we counted 26 different types of flowers that are decorated in our condo. On a daily basis, you don't see anything. But you stop and see, and now if you actually, with this knowledge, think about it, appreciate the bhav with which someone had that plan, and then the bhav with which they took care of the seeds, and the right environment for it to thrive. And all of that is so that Bhagwanji is reminding us of his splendor. But we are so stuck in our own minds.
So that's the difference between seeing his Vishwaroop as stuck in Sansar. Right? We can't see any beauty in there. Then we don't see any magnificence in there. We don't see any divinity in there. Yes, Kavita.
Yeah. I just wanted to ask, see, the Vishwaroop darshan is how is just perception of how we are seeing the sansar.
Mm-hmm.
At the core of it, to see the Vishwaroop darshan means the perception of how we are seeing the sansar.
Vishwaroop darshan is trying to see the
subtlety behind
the diversity as one. That is Vishwarup Darshan, right? And Vishwarup Darshan, as you will see after you go through next 3-4 shlokas, you will see it is not possible to see it with our Charam Chakshu at all. Okay. You will see it now. We've gone from, as we go from 5 to 6 to 7 to 8, he will need to have a different way to perceive it. It's like, for example, if I tell you, look at your hand, see how many bacteria are there in this hand. And you're like, aankhein faad ke dekho, you will not see it. Right? Okay, I believe you. I'm trying to see it. Yeah. Maybe I can see, there are hundreds of, can you actually see it? You can't see the bacteria on your hand. If I tell you this laptop here is full of space, right? It is made of atoms and it is full of space. It feels solid, but actually when you go down to the core of it, most of it is actually just space. And this solidity is an illusion, right? With your Charam Chakshu, there is no way you can imagine, you can understand it. Your perception has to come not through your eyes. You have to see it and say, I will look beyond what my physical eyes are showing me. And then you have to use a different sense of perception, Gyan Chakshu, to understand how is it possible for me to imagine that this solid looking table is actually just mostly space. And then you will be given some small examples for you to understand how that works. For example, there is a fan. Fan has 3 blades, but when it is running, you feel like it's a disc. It's a complete solid disc because it's moving so fast. With that gross example, you can start to see, oh, even though there is a lot of space and it's not a solid disc, my physical eyes can show this to me as a disc. Or you have one of those wo jo haath mein wo leke wo karte na with those colors. You can see that when you move that fast enough, the 7 colors blend into one white light, right? So these are things that when we use our Gyan Chakshu, we start to realize how our physical eyes don't show us the complete reality, right? So that's what Bhagwanji is trying to get him to see, that see everything. The Vishwarup Darshan is to move beyond what your Charam Chakshu is showing you and elevate your sense of perception to see beyond what is obvious, which is not containing the whole truth. Like white light is not just white light. It is actually composed of 7 colors, like that.
So I'll give you a more gross example, right? Balance sheet. A balance sheet of a company represents just numbers, correct? So at the Bharata level, you have the ability to read the number. Sorry, at the Partha level, you have the ability with the eyes to read the number. It is the next stage, which is Bharata, which is the meaning is going from gross to subtle. Do you perceive what the number means? If my final number is in red, then you're able to perceive, oh, my costs are greater than my revenue and my income. And the third level, which is Gudakesh, which is you are now no longer deluded. You will look at that number and you will now perceive what is my real purpose here. Does the market really need the business? Does not need the business? And Bhagwanji is basically saying, perceive things differently. Vishwadrup Darshan would basically mean the highest level where you're perceiving everything as one unified.
Thank you.
Bhagishri, you'll read with us?
Now the Lord describes those aspects of his sublimities from which the diversities of universe originate.
Pashyadityan vasun rudran.
Pashyadityan vasudran.
Ashvinau marutasthatha.
Ashvinau marutastatha.
Bahunya drishta purvani.
Bahunya drushta purvani.
Pashyascharya Pashyashcharyani Bharata.
Paschascharyaani Bharata.
Let's just read.
O Bharata, behold the Adityas, the Vasus, the Rudras, the two Ashwinis, and also the Maruts. Also behold many wonders which have never been seen before.
So here he is referred to Arjuna's Bharata. Bharata. And the meaning of this is a person who has moved from gross to subtle. And he's referring to him as Bharata as he's saying, behold the basis of this creation that you've never seen before, because you've only had eyes. Now you go to the subtle and start perceiving differently.
So Bharat is the person जिसका भरण पोषण हो गया है. In Hindi, जिसका भरण पोषण हो गया है. There is no abhav left in him. Whatever he needed, he has that. So there is no abhav. There is no sense of deficiency. There is no longer a need for like, oh, I need this to be happy. I need these to be complete. I need this person's acceptance of me for me to feel complete about myself. There is no physical or emotional or mental or spiritual requirement left anymore. You know, we are all always coming from when we are in a gross space, we are always coming from a space of abhav. That is why we are constantly chasing things outside. I need a house, I need a car, I need children, I need respect, I need love, I need approval of my peers, I need approval of my boss, I need approval from my parents. We're constantly seeking something or the other from people and things around us. We are constantly looking to acquire things from outside to feel complete.
And when we don't get it, we get upset.
Yeah. And we are constantly, so we are in a space of deficiency. Why are we in a space of deficiency? Because everything we constantly acquire is a physical thing, something that exists in this Maya, which by definition is transient. Okay. What we are chasing is really our real self, which is Sat, Chit, and Anand. Sat is that which always is, which is not transient, which is avyayam, which is not perishable. When you're trying to create something imperishable with perishable stuff, there is obviously going to be no completion. There would always be a sense of abhav. There is always something that is missing. You acquire one thing and then suddenly after that, you will find something else that requires completion. There's always something else that needs to be done. Okay, you acquire a house, then you need to fill the house up with furniture and soft furnishings. And then by the time you complete that, you realize that, oh, something that you bought a year ago no longer works or is broken, and now you need to replace it. Then the whole process of maintenance. First you acquire, and then the process of maintenance starts, because everything is constantly deteriorating. So there's always a sense of abhav. Bharat is a person who has moved beyond that sense of abhav now. Jo prapt hai, wahi paryapt hai. He has moved into that space of jo prapt hai, wo paryapt hai. He no longer does any action to acquire something for himself. All his actions are based on only one thing. Is this my duty? The circumstance that has been created for me, what is my duty in this circumstance? And that which must be done because it is my duty. And that is why I will do an action, not to acquire something any longer. Okay, that is a higher level of consciousness that the path has moved to become a Bharat. Jo prapt hai, wahi paryapt hai. There is satisfaction and contentment with all VVGP around us. There is no more a sense of victimhood. There is no more a sense of right or wrong. There is no more a sense of ye mere saath kyun hua? Why should this happen? Why should that not happen? I deserve this. I don't deserve this. We move past that to a space of what is my duty towards a VVGP, a person, a thing, a circumstance. That's it. Okay.
The macro and the micro effulgences. In this shloka, the Lord points out those primal effulgences which form the basis of creation. Like the waves of the ocean, the phenomenal creation is without a beginning and without an end. Just as waves are merely appearances superimposed on the water of the ocean, creation is an appearance superimposed on the reality of the self. Aditya. This term has been explained in Shloka 21 of chapter 10 as representing the primal collective effulgences of the Lord. Vasus. This term has been explained in Shloka 23 of chapter 10. It represents the primal individualized effulgences. Rudras. This term has also been explained in Shloka 23 of chapter 10. Ashwini Kumara. These deities always appear in twos. They are said to be presiding deities of the respiratory system, which performs the functions of inhalation and exhalation, governing the entrance and exit of the cosmic energy called prana. The deities are pictured as the physicians of the gods. In the Indian system of Ayurveda, there is a well-established branch known as Swara Vidyan, or the science of respiration, by which alone many diseases can be cured without the administration of any medicine. In this manner, these deities maintain the life force, and hence they have been treated as effulgences of the Lord. Maruts. This term has been explained in Shloka 21 of chapter 10. Marichi, referred to in that shloka, is one of the 49 forms of Maruts, and it serves as a vehicle of the vital power prana in the form of breath.
You want to say something?
Here's a question.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask one thing, that I understand when you say that everything around us is transient and we are running after it, which is probably perishable. But when we say that jo prapt hai wahi paryapt hai, how do we then, if we stick to this, not become complacent in what we have and not strive for better? Can it also make us complacent when we say that what jo prapt hai wahi paryapt hai? Or I mean, yeah.
Sure. So let me finish the meaning of Shloka 6 and then I'll come to this, right? So in Shloka 6, basically, these are terms that we've read before, right? So I will not get into the meaning of these any longer. What is, we've talked about the 12 Adityas, the 8 Vasus, the 11 Rudras, the 2 Ashwini Kumars, the 49 Maruts, right? The important thing here is that what Bhagwanji is saying is, he's saying, Bahunya Drishta Purvani. Behold or look at things that you have never seen before with your eyes. You've never heard of them before with your ears. You have never contemplated on them. Your intellect has never thought about these things before. So these are never before experiences that I want you to see or feel and understand. Okay. So he's now going beyond his charam chakshu, because these charam chakshu, so you've seen these things before. Now he's getting him to have a higher level of perception through his gyan chakshu, to see things beyond what is obvious. Okay. So, and from here now we will go to the divya chakshu, the divine eyesight, the divine sight. Okay. Coming back to your question.
So just one last thing, right?
Yeah.
So Ashwini Kumars, right? The deities always appear in two. It is impossible for us to hold duality together. It is only at the subtle level that we're able to understand it or experience those dualities. So this is also why Bhagwanji says you need to move from gross to subtle to understand the dual nature of the world you're living in. And the duality mentioned here, which is prana, is the most powerful of all. Because every breath we go in and out is helping us live Bhagwanji's effulgence, which gives us this life. Right? for Bhavna's question, do you want to talk about purpose action, purpose power action disorder?
So I think one thing is that it is a gross consciousness at which level when we think that the only reason to move or to do an action is because we shouldn't be complacent. Means what? Means that we can't be satisfied with what I have. That means all my action is only driven by acquisition. I have to change where I am today by acquiring something from outside, because I am not whole. I am not complete. I am very much incomplete. And acquiring something from outside will make me happier in some capacity. Okay, it will make me physically more comfortable. It will make me emotionally more satisfied. It will make me mentally more comfortable or happier. So we are constantly operating from a space of incompleteness. And from that space of incompleteness, I am constantly trying to fulfill myself, right? So all my action is driven by that sense of incompleteness being fulfilled by external objects, right? That's the gross way of looking at things. It's when you start to acquire some gyan, you start to see the foolishness or the emptiness of that effort. Because everything that you try and acquire from outside is never going to leave you complete
Or happy.
or happy.
Your happiness will be the moment you achieve that goal. You will be happy for those few moments.
And the reason
And
for
then
that is not because you have fulfilled a goal. Okay, so I really think you must go through the first 6 chapters, go through the recordings we have. It is a must, because that's the basis of everything that you're going to read from here on, right? But there are a few things that I'll remind here. One is that what was I going to say? It was very relevant. Shucks, it's
purpose.
No, not purpose bhav. See, end of the day, we are trying to achieve whatever we are trying to do, when we are trying to achieve things from outside, desires, right? We are constantly driven by desires. This whole conversation that I cannot be complacent, or that if I don't have desires, I will become complacent. Jo prapt hai, wo paryapt hai, means that I have no desires. And so the whole idea is that desires is what gives me the impetus to do anything. Otherwise, I'll become a couch potato. That's not what Bhagavad Gita says at any point of time. It says that your purpose has to change. Your actions will not change ever.
See, as long as, so just an additional point, as long as you're chasing desire, you will experience anger and you will experience sadness.
Yeah.
And that is far from moksha. And the greater the desire, the greater number of desires, your happiness will be fleeting moments of happiness, right?
Yes,
like,
that was what I wanted to touch upon.
So for example, you may have a desire to own a car. You're like, I really want, say, an Audi car. I want months and months of planning, looking for deals, all of that. The moment you buy the car, you'll be really happy. But a few days later, it's gone.
Okay, and the reason for this is that we think that, oh, the happiness I acquired was because of this external thing I got. I got my car, I got my promotion, I got whatever that I've been running after. My desire got fulfilled. The reality is that happiness does not come from outside. Happiness is an internal way of being. The reason we are not happy is because it is covered. It's got an avaran of our desires that are constantly creating churn in our mind. Our mind's natural state of being is placid and calm, whereas the desires act as ripples on that water surface. The more desires we have, the more ripples on that water. So there is no calmness. Okay. And what happens is that this desire to get something necessarily means there's a lot of effort required for it. Okay, you put in a lot of effort, physical effort, mental effort, emotional effort, you're invested in it. All of that takes away your calmness and happiness, because you're constantly in action trying to get something. You're fully like, all your senses are there. The moment you acquire something, for that moment, that avaran of desire goes away. That is why you are happy. Your inner happiness is able to shine forth, because there is no more desire inside of you.
There's no wave, so you can.
There are no waves any longer of desires. Okay, and so happiness comes from an absence of desire, and not because of the fulfillment of desire. When that desire goes away, there is that your inner happiness shines forth, and you think that, oh, I got happiness because I got something. No, you got happiness because there's no longer an acquisitive desire inside of you that you're trying to fulfill. But that does not last for very long, because right after on its heels, you will have another desire. And then that desire, now, first thing you acquired your body, then there would be a desire of its maintenance. There is a certain maintenance that comes with that car, and you have to make sure that you are able to maintain it. And then that will start its process, and you will again not be happy any longer. That is a very important thing to realize. Okay, it's explained in Shloka in chapter 3 in great detail. We dealt with this subject in great detail in chapter 3. Another thing is that desires, what is the natural?
Let's not go deeper in desire. The only thing, Bhavna, for you to be aware of, and we can talk about it separately, or I would highly recommend go through chapter 2 and chapter 3, because not just you, everyone in this class had exactly the same questions.
Yeah.
This is part of your journey.
Yeah.
It's
a very natural question. Yeah.
So and there is a cheat sheet given, which is every act that you do, they have 4 stages to it. First is the purpose of why you're doing that act. The second is the bhav. Bhav means emotion plus intention combined. What is the bhav with which I'm doing it? The third is action, the actual effort and act that you're doing. And the fourth is result. Right? Our only focus in life is to make sure we are aligned on purpose and we are clear on bhav.
With which we do something.
Easiest example to give you is, and we've shared this many a time because Kakoli brought it up, I remember many classes ago, which was cooking. You can cook for your family, but you are making the food because you want to feed your family, but you are upset with your spouse or with your son. So you're cooking begrudgingly, right? The act is still happening, and the end result may be tasty or may not be tasty. We don't know. But the only thing you can control is the purpose and the bhav with which you do an act. And this is why our experience always is कि जब भी प्रसाद का खाना बनता है, when food is made for offering to Bhagwan Ji, you don't taste it, you don't know what the result will be. Your bhav is you're making it for Bhagwan, and almost I've never had an experience where prasad food is not absolutely delicious.
So basically in Gita, at no point of time, before Gita and after Gita, your actions will remain exactly the same. Nothing will change. Whatever jobs you're doing, you will continue to do. Whatever actions you're supposed to do, you will continue to do. Same set of circumstances, if not tougher, will come to you. Okay, you will deal with exactly the same set of circumstances. Your actions will remain the same. What will change is the bhav and the purpose with which you are doing those actions. Okay, one of the key things that we think happens is that we are choosing to act in a certain way. When you go through those first 6 chapters, you will start to realize that one of the key tenets Bhagwanji says is that all actions, everything in this world is because of the 3 gunas. So I may think that I'm choosing to do certain thing, right? Actually, that's not true. I have no control. The bhavs, the gunas that have been there in me will make me work hard in every situation, no matter what happens. I will not be able to control it. I will be driven no matter what by those gunas to do exactly the action that needs to be done. What needs to change is my bhav and the purpose. So now you will do the same action in your office. For example, you go to office, you have a job, you will continue to do those same actions, but now no longer are you pursuing a job or a salary raise. If it happens, great. Doesn't happen, doesn't happen. You will continue to do the same actions, but with the only purpose is that this is the right thing to do. I have been given, I have a role, I have certain duties to do, and I will do my duty to the best of my abilities. And what is interesting is when you replace your purpose from an externally driven purpose to an internally driven purpose, which is driven by a sense of duty, you will do a much better job than you would if you were pursuing an external desire. Because what happens is that, you're working really hard towards something with a certain purpose in mind. If that purpose gets frustrated and you don't really get that object, you're going to be so disappointed that you are likely going to go from a high in energy to a complete low in energy, which means at that stage, you will no longer be able to do your job effectively. And that happens to all of us. We are constantly on this roller coaster of energy cycles. Okay, when we are not going through this, when we are not being driven by an external circumstance, but an internal sense of duty, we are always at a high. We are always doing things. Our mind is clear, our mind is calm, and we have a strong sense of energy, and we are always able to do optimal work. Okay, yoga is samatvam yoga uchyate. We have equanimity, because I'm not tied to external results any longer. So there is equanimity in my mind. And when there is equanimity, that equanimity itself is yoga. Samatvam yoga uchyate. And when I'm in yoga, all my actions are most efficiently done. Okay, so this has been also told to us in chapter 3, right? So you will continue to, your actions are not driven by a sense of complacency or a sense of acquisition. They are driven by gunas. You will continue to do the same set of actions. Your external life circumstances will not change. Whether you read Gita, you don't read Gita, you will go through the same rigmarole of life. But what will change will be your inner sense of self. What is driving the purpose that is driving your actions, and how you're feeling every day as you live through the same external circumstance. Much more calmer, happier, content. Right?
If you do takeaways.
Yeah.
Right.
It's 11:52, although I doubt we'll be able to do that. But okay, I hope that gives you some sense of answer to your question. There are so many parts to it, but we just try to be at high level.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Quick round of takeaways. Can we do like one line each? It's 7 minutes, so we've got literally 1 minute for everyone. Who wants to go first? We'll start with you.
The level of perception from gross to subtle, I think that's how our journey also has been. And I don't know how far we've come, but it's getting better, definitely. I can see that. That would be my takeaway.
Thank you, Nana. Kavita?
For me, my main takeaway is the example of standing on the tiptoe. So we just be aware of when we are going out of balance. And what you were mentioning to Bhavna right now, like, all these, when there is a desire or the intention or anything which is going little out of balance, we feel that we are away from the balance, and consciously do some sadhana or reflect back to come back to that center. That is my takeaway.
I think for me, it was primarily this thought process of thinking about Partha and then Bharata, how you perceive God from gross things to subtle things. And I think in the next shloka, we'll get even more at a different level. So in my mind, it's like a framework. So hopefully it will complete in the next class, but that's what I'm looking forward to, and that's what I took away from this class.
Very nice. Thank you.
So until now, I thought that Arjuna is asking questions because he has questions and God is answering his questions. But now I know that the curiosity was also created by the Lord. Like you said, the Lord wanted the Gita to be spoken. That's why it happened, and not because of Arjun, which is me, not because of me asking the questions, but like God made me ask the question.
That's a very, very good takeaway, Bhagyashree. And it takes away that sense of doership from us that we always suffer from. Wherever there is sense of doership, there is a sense of suffering, right? And that doership is something that we carry very strongly with us, even at the subtlest level. Like you said, we thought we are asking questions and then Bhagwanji is answering. But actually, the whole act of asking questions is because of his grace. He wants us to ask the questions. That's why we are asking.
And that's why we're sitting in this class.
Yeah. He wants us to be in this class. That's why we are all in this class, in this satsang. Otherwise, he wouldn't be there. Thank you.
I have to extend that. He wants us to be in this class is because we must have done something that he thinks we deserve it to be. So isn't the action still on us?
Action is always on us. Always.
So-
Effort is always on us.
So then how do we absolve ourselves from that doer thing? You still have to be the doer to be the receiver.
Again, going back to the first shut-up, there is an action in action. Okay, when you do an action and you have a sense of doership, when you have a sense of doership, you have to take the consequences of that action. And that action may be actually taking an action, or it could be action in inaction. When we don't do something that we're supposed to do, that is also an action we have taken, right? And then there is inaction in action. Inaction in action. We actually do an act, but the results or the consequences of it don't stick to us. In that case, we go from something being a karma to a kriya. The body is doing an action, but I will not bear any fruits of it, whether it is good or bad. The whole act of karma yoga is to do an action through the physical body or our mental body. We will do the actions as kriya, but they are like roasted seeds. The results don't accrue to us. We don't suffer the consequences any longer when we do it with the right purpose and the right bhav. And how does that happen? How do karma become, instead of sprouting seeds, they become roasted seeds? The way is to make sure that whenever we do something, we do the action and we understand that we are doing the action with his energy. First of all, the action has come to us for our own uddhar by his grace. We are doing everything as a result of the energy and the skill sets given to us on loan by him. He has given us, he has equipped us with whatever we need to do that action. We do it only to please him and not to please other people around me. And the results of it, I'm not attached to the results. Whatever happens, karmanyeva adhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachanam. I do not attach myself to the results. Whatever result comes, it is Bhagwanji's prasad. And I dedicate the results to him. When we do actions that way, then we have no sense of doership. I am not doing it. He is creating the opportunity to do the seva. And he is giving the energy, he's giving the inspiration, he's showing the path, and he is making us walk. I am a Kathputli in his hands, and I will just do whatever he asks us to do. Tum yantri, main yantra katki. You are the yantri, you are the one who's moving everything. I am just a puppet in your hands. Right? When we do it like that, then there is no sense of doership. He's doing everything. Right? It's the same difference between discretionary portfolio management versus being a broker who is just acting on behalf of whatever the client is telling him to. then whether that trade makes money or not, the broker is absolved, but not the discretionary portfolio manager who's making those decisions on behalf of the client. You get the difference? Action is still being done by both. But in one case, one suffers the consequences. In the other one, the other doesn't suffer the consequences, even though they take the same set of actions. Right?
I think from my perspective, the understanding, I was blown away with the analogy that you talked about, the Vishwaroop, and what is happening around is also a manifestation that we're not able to appreciate, of people coming, people going, born, different forms here and there. That is a form of Vishwaroop that we've not been able to see it in. We're just living in the samsara and not looking at the samsara. I think that was a completely eye-opener for me.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
For,
Ritu?
Bhavna.
Bhavna, sorry, Bhavna, please.
for me, the tiptoe one which you had said was like, yes, we all are like that we always keep deviating, but we have to come to the center. It was kind of heartening also because we always doubt ourselves whenever we get deviated in worries and intentions, but then we have to realize that we are all Arjuns. We will tiptoe and we'll come back to the center.
Correct. So whenever there is a sense of fear, anxiety, anger, or any of those things, we are worried about the future, know that we have gone off from the center, because now we have a sense of doership. We think we are doing something. We are the Bharan Poshan Karta. I am providing for my family. I am taking care of my company. That sense of doership has come. And because there's a sense of doership, then of course we have limited resources, we have limited energy, we have limited brain. So then there is a sense of like, how will something happen? Oh my God, how will I ever do it? And that causes anxiety and fear. When we align ourselves with Bhagwanji's wish and we say whatever will happen for our best uddhar, and we don't have a sense of doership, now doership is with him, that anxiety will melt away naturally. That's a very important practice point for us to do on a daily basis. Yes, Rituj.
My learnings have been that the transition that Arjun had in the manner of asking questions, I need to be mindful of my ego and the difference of what I think I actually deserve, what I think I deserve, and what I actually deserve. That difference of my ego, have to be mindful of that. And the fact that not seeing the magnificence of the world and God through the world, and just not be stuck in my mind, and that how happiness only comes from within rather than expecting happiness to come from worldly things, and also performing my duties but working on my bhav and my purpose behind it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think the last thing I would say is ego check, keeping our ego in check. Actually, our entire journey is removal of this ego. The only thing ego does is it creates limitations. Bhagwanji is infinite. His grace is infinite. With our ego, what we do is we create limitations around his grace. So our entire journey is to become zero. Right? We have to really deconstruct our personalities. We have to deconstruct all these labels we give to ourselves, which today gives us some sense of meaning. That entire thing has to be deconstructed down to zero. And as we deconstruct ourselves down to zero, the more we align with Bhagwanji and the more his grace flows through us. And that is really the effort we have to do, not to fill, but to take out. Lighten ourselves up on this journey. Thank you. Are you closing shlokas?
Om Sarvesham
Swastir Bhavatu, Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu, Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu, सर्वेषां मङ्गलं भवतु। ॐ सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। ॐ असतो मा सद्गमय, तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय, मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते, पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Actually, this last shloka.
Just quick reminder for those who've not filled out the survey, the poll on availability for the next 2 Sundays, please do, so that we can decide what date we'll do the quiz. Either it'll be next Sunday or the Sunday after.
And I think the last thing I wanted to do was just remind, because we read about Bharat, right? In Shloka 6 today. The last shloka in the end that we do, Purnamada Purnamidam, is really a reference to us being Bharats. Because the meaning of that shloka is exactly that reminder to us that I am complete and you are complete. Okay. And when we are complete, you take complete out of complete. What remains is also complete. So it does not matter what you take away from me, I will still be complete, and I don't need anything else from outside to complete me. It's a reminder of how we are all Bharat at all points of time. It's very important for us to understand the meaning of what we say. It's only when we attach the right meaning and we say it with the right purpose and right bhav, do things really have, they will really create a difference in us. Very important to remember this by how, what example? Who heard Gita? We're constantly talking about Arjun, right? That Arjun is hearing Gita, the song of Gita from Bhagwanji, and he transforms himself. But there are 2 more people who heard Gita at the same time as Arjun, Sanjay and Dhritarashtra. They also heard Gita in their entirety. But Dhritarashtra was listening to Gita through Sanjay for what purpose? Not to transform himself as Arjun did. He wanted to really understand the real truth. And so he got that at the end of the song of Gita. But Dhritarashtra was listening to it only to understand whether his sons are winning in the battlefield or not. So he never understood the meaning. He never got the truth, even though he heard the same thing, spent the same amount of time listening to Gita. That is why it is very, very important when we are doing the shlokas, understand the meaning of your invocation shlokas. Understand them really well. The upasana that we do, the pujas that we do, why do we say what we say and really mean it from the bottom of your heart? If you don't, you can do puja all your life, karm kand all your life. It will make zero difference in your life, zero difference. You can do the same puja morning, afternoon, night. It will make zero difference in your life. But when you do it with purpose, when you mean every word that you speak, and you understand it and you speak it with a full, complete reverence and feeling, it will make transformative change in your life. So please do make an effort to understand the invocation shlokas and invoke them with complete feeling when you speak them. And similarly for our pujas, the upasana that we do, understand what you're saying and say it with complete reverence, feeling, and complete being in the present. Then only it will have an impact. Without understanding it, just saying it will not have an impact. Similarly, try and bring some level of consciousness to your Naam Jap as well on a daily basis. Do not leave it just because the Anushthan is over. Okay, do your Naam Jap, continue with it, and bring your nowness into it. Become present to the Naam Jap when you're doing it rather than letting your mind wander. Just bring that awareness and bring that purpose in. Even if you're not able to do it, you will eventually, with that purpose, will bring you to that effect eventually. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Narayan, Narayan. Have a lovely week ahead.
Narayan, Narayan. Thank you.
Narayan.
Tuhina?
Yeah.
Yeah.